She grabbed my kid's backpack at the bus stop and told me I owed a non-resident fee $50 a week, backdated to September, like my 10-year-old was trying to sneak onto a private jet instead of a public school bus. You know what I mean? 10 minutes later, there were blue lights, a tote full of laminated bylaws in an evidence bag, and a pink tracksuit whispering excuses while the cuffs clicked. That ending only makes sense if I start where mornings used to be quiet, when my coffee stayed hot, and Pine Hollow felt like the place we paid for. I'm Ethan Walker, 38 hydrologist by trade, peace and routine. By preference, the kind of dad who times the walk from our place at Birch and Lantern. So Ellie hits the curb just as the doors fold open. No drama, no speeches, just math class and recess. 6 months back, a new neighbor moved in and introduced herself the way some people introduce a problem. I'm Marlene, president of the Pine Hollow Homeowners Association, said. Like a badge when none of us remember to vote. The first real contact came at 6:02 a.m., hard knuckles on my door, me in socks and a t-shirt, her in a blinding white tracksuit with HOA stitched over the pocket, a clipboard, and a laminated notice held like scripture. Trash receptacle. Left 3 inches beyond the curb line, she said. Without blinking, Section 12, Paragraph 3, $500. Due today, scan the pink QR, were digital only. There was a fat bubblegum QR at the bottom, so proud you could smell the toner. And I asked her calm voice and coffee breath to email the bylaw and her incorporation paperwork I'd read while I drank. Ignorance isn't a defense, she said, planting the line like a flag, and marched off before I could point out that flags don't make a country. I wrote it down like I do when a river changes speed for no reason. Time date pink QR Section 12, because there's power in a clean note. Next morning at 8:10, we were at the corner with the usual sleepy huddle of parents, Ellie half behind my leg, the way kids stand when they're watching everything, and a white SUV slid in crooked at the curb. Out stepped Marlene like a person who practices entrances. Neon sneakers, fresh tracksuit, and 2 satellites named Todd and Chase. Todd, doughy, and sweating as he wrestled a bright yellow wheel boot. Chase, 19, and Ernest with a messenger bag stuffed with neon orange violation stickers. Attention, she announced, planting herself by the bus sign. Compliance sweep. Zero tolerance. Members only bus access non-resident fee is $50 a week. Retroactive. No sticker. No ride eyes cutting to Ellie, like she'd found her mark. I said this isn't a private shuttle. It's a county bus on a public road, and she gave me the line again. Ignorance. The way some people chew ice. Mr. Grady, who's driven this route 20 years and talks like a boulder rolling downhill, stood up inside the bus and said his section was simple. No blocking doors, no grabbing kids, no taking money. And when she planted her foot on the first step and told him she'd be writing him up, he shrugged, make it legible. My supervisor frames the good ones, which got a couple snorts from the sidewalk. Todd dropped the boot on his own foot. Clang, hop, grimace. Chase eyed a little boy's Spider-Man backpack like he was about to sticker it for existing. And the kid's dad stepped between with a low, even voice that said, "Don't not today." Ellie's fingers found my sleeve, and I felt that bright flare rise, the part of you that wants to roar. But the other part was counting logging, letting the fly land in the jar. Because if you've ever been pushed for long enough, you learn not to swing first. You learn to hold the line and collect the truth. That night, our kitchen turned into a little war room. Naomi, my wife, laptop open, and eyebrows set me with a legal pad and a pen that always writes on the first try. And we started with the pink QR, because if the money is wrong, everything else is theater. The code didn't hit any official merchant system. It fell onto a janky page, held together by template glue, and when Naomi pulled the strings, it routed to a personal account tied to P.O. Box 714 behind the hardware store holder of record M. Givens, which would be Marlene's last name. Yeah, that happened. I called Darla at the Redstone County clerk. She knows every subdivision filing like birthdays, and asked if Pine Hollow had a registered HOA for Birch Lantern Willow, the whole map. 30 seconds later, she said, "Nope, not now, not ever. If you want to form one, you need bylaws and a board and a vote and articles, not a tracksuit and a clipboard." We texted neighbors who'd paid to make the knocking stop. Rosa with the daycare got dinged $25 for chalk outside the color palette. Mr. Baldwin paid $100 for not using approved brown on a fence. A new couple on Alder paid for 1 week of silence and got another knock the next morning. And they all had screenshots with the same fat pink QR. Sloan across the street, who runs security for a big app. She never names, dropped off 2 button cameras that clicked into a jacket lapel and fed a cloud folder she'd already shared with Naomi. And I sent a heads up to Deputy Serena Ortiz from the Watershed Committee, told her we had adults demanding money at a kid's bus stop on a public road. We didn't want a scene. We wanted safety and a clean record. She said she'd be close, no lights unless she needed them. The plan wasn't fancy. Get the demand on camera, ask for paperwork, don't shove, hold your ground, and if it goes sideways, let the person with a badge make the call. And it turns out that's enough when you've got a neighborhood that's tired of swallowing nonsense. Morning came thick with that quiet before a storm. A few more parents than usual, phones ready. Not flapping. And the white SUV rolled up right on schedule, neon sneakers. Tote of laminated rules, Todd dragging the boot like a cartoon anchor. Chase palming his sticker stack like trading cards. Compliance sweep. Marlene announced again, 0 tolerance. And when Priya, another neighbor with her camera openly out, said we were on a public road, Marlene swung at a phone and hit air, which didn't matter because the button cams were blinking. I held up Naomi's mock receipt on my screen, timestamp payment ID, and said, "Paid, maybe your system is slow." She squinted at the code, couldn't parse PA1DNTAHOA, then snapped that if it wasn't showing in the HOA account, I should pay again, or Ellie walks. She told Todd to boot Rosa's van and told Chase to confiscate any non-approved personal items. Yes, she said, backpacks. Then reached for the Spider-Man bag, because bullies always grab the nearest small thing when the big stuff starts slipping away. The dad didn't go loud. He just said, "Do not put your hands on my kid." And the circle tightened. Not violent, just certain. Because when regular people decide to be present, it gets heavy fast. That was the moment I stopped taking notes and said her name like we were at a potluck, so it cut through the noise. Marlene, 2 quick checks. Redstone County has no HOA on file for these streets, and your pink QR routes to your personal account at P.O. Box 714. We've got names, dates, amounts, and today on video, so the only standards getting enforced here are yours, and they look a lot like "pay me or else." She tried to bluster. Community standards, leadership ignorance. But the air had shifted and Mr. Grady was just watching, and Darla's email was open on my screen, and I reached into the tote she'd parked at her shoes, because paper tyrants love their paper. Lifted one of those laminated notices with the screaming font. Said, "I've seen counterfeit fishing licenses with better legal language. Sloppy and also a crime." And that's when Serena's SUV slid to the curb with no siren. Just county paint and quiet authority. "Morning," she said to everyone. Like a teacher taking a first roll call, asked Marlene if she had any business here, other than collecting money and preventing access to a public bus. Asked where the QR money went. Listened to the wobble in the answer. Then looked at the rest of us and said, "Keep your phones up or down." Your choice, we're going to do this clean. I put Darla on speaker, so Serena heard the clerk say there's no association on file, and Serena took the laminated sheets out of my hand like a sandwich. She didn't order, told Todd to set the boot down and step out of the walkway. Asked Chase for ID. Steady voice the whole time. Then said the words, "You think you'll never hear on your street." But they land like order. Marlene Givens. You're under arrest for fraud, attempted theft, and harassment of a minor. You have the right to remain silent. And the cuffs clicked once, dry and small, and still. Somehow you could feel the whole block exhale. Mr. Grady gave the siren a 2-note chirp as he climbed back into his bus. A little victory song, not a parade. And Ellie looked up at me without a movie smile, just a small nod that said, "We're good," then stepped onto the bus because math was waiting, which felt like the point the whole time. I stood there with a laminated notice still in my hand and a neighborhood in my throat. And I asked myself where the line is between standards and control, between caring about a place and trying to own it. And maybe the answer is simple. Maybe it's hard. Maybe it's this. Rules should feel like seatbelts, not invoices. Cut there. No party, no speeches, just a street that remembered how to stand together and a bus that left on time. If you were standing with me right now, what would you say? Did I set a fair trap or play detective too far? Where do you draw that line in your town? And have you ever paid a fine just to make the knocking stop? Drop your take in the comments. Push back if you need to tell me what justice looks like where you live, and if you want more stories told straight, not slick. Hit like, and share this with the one neighbor who always shows up when it matters.